The manager who did fantastic, who made history at Flamengo.
Filipe Luís is a very exciting coach.
I would love to see Filipe Luís at Chelsea. I think it'd be class.
We have seen Flamengo, not Flamingo, Flamengo in the Club World Cup, and we have seen how well they are drilled, how well they can compete, how well they play their organization defensively, offensively, in midfield. They move the ball very nicely. They attack with intent. Check this out. Another name we have to watch on the manager market is the name of Filipe Luís. Now, I tend to think this might be actually the hottest contender. Coming to Filipe Luís. Now, Filipe Luís is actually a very, very talented up-and-coming manager. I know, another up-and-coming, sure, but he's actually done the damage in the Brazilian league, in South America as well, their continental trophy. I think it's called Libertadores. Sorry if I mispronounced that, but you know what I'm talking about. He's absolutely smoked it there. He's won everything that is possible to win over there. Absolutely killed it with Flamengo. Now, we have seen Flamengo, not Flamingo, Flamengo in the Club World Cup, and we have seen how well they are drilled, how well they can compete, how well they play their organization defensively, offensively, in midfield. They move the ball very nicely. They attack with intent. They press with intent, and they've got, engines everywhere. And Filipe Luís was the one who was driving all of that and saw them have all of that glory whilst Filipe Luís was there. Let me know in the comment section. I'm pretty sure he's won a few trophies over there. Most recently, I think he won the Brazilian league not that long ago, and then something must have happened and he parted ways. I don't know what it was. Now, I tend to think Filipe Luís is probably the hottest contender here. Because if you guys remember, when Liam Rossinha got sacked, we reached out to Filipe Luís, not for the Chelsea job, apparently, but the job at Strasbourg, which I feel like is a bit of an insult for Filipe Luís, because Flamengo far superior to Strasbourg, right? And Filipe Luís has done his apprenticeship. He doesn't need to go through that again. He's ready for a big role. Now, the Chelsea role is probably a bit too big, but it's a manager that I wouldn't mind, because I feel like he understands. Ex-Chelsea player as well, don't forget. So he would know what the club is all about. He would know, under Roman Abramovich's era, what was demanded. Obviously, it's a different era, but he would know what the fans demand.
Then one more name I want to include in these conversations about managers is Filipe Luís, the manager who did fantastic, who made history at Flamengo. Filipe Luís did incredible by winning the Copa Libertadores, by winning the league. He did fantastic, but also a very good final against Paris Saint-Germain. You are competing against probably one of the best, if not the best team in the world, and Flamengo were doing very well during the game. So Filipe Luís is a very talented young manager, was an experienced player. And so also Filipe Luís' situation could be one to watch, because also Filipe Luís is ready to restart. Filipe Luís, from what I understand, would like an opportunity in Europe after coaching in South America. And so that story is going to be one to watch, the one of Filipe Luís, because could be one of the surprising names to follow in terms of manager for season 26-27.
And I think if you just look at the timeline of managers, they inherit Thomas Tuchel, a Champions League winning manager. It now looks like they're going to appoint Rossinha, who's managed Derby, Hull and Strasbourg. Great opportunity for him if it happens, but Chelsea Football Club and their supporters are not used to that appointment. They're used to Mourinho, they're used to Hiddink, they're used to Conte. Big name managers coming in to basically make a huge impact on their club, and I don't see Rossinha doing that.
On another potential Chelsea manager in the works, and that is former Chelsea left-back, Brazilian Filipe Luís, who was in London over the weekend. He was pictured with Thiago Silva at a restaurant this weekend, and we've been told, and I'll use these phrases a lot at the moment, we've been told doesn't necessarily mean that happened or this will happen, but we were told that Chelsea were interested in Filipe Luís as soon ago as January. Funnily enough, we always knew it was going to be Rossinha, didn't we? That ended really well. Filipe Luís is working urgently to obtain his UEFA Pro license as quickly as possible in order to coach in England. Chelsea closely monitored his work at Flamengo and seriously considered appointing him. However, legal and regulatory issues linked to his coaching licence prevented the move from progressing further. Filipe Luís is another interesting one. When I talk about the upcoming Chelsea managerial appointment or coach, or in my opinion, hopefully a manager, I'm looking at potentially what is going to work risk-wise when you've clearly got a squad of unhappy players who, to be honest, wouldn't be too surprised if they were also not too happy with the ownership, with the model, with the structure, with the clear direction or lack of, therefore, that Chelsea Football Club are seemingly heading towards. It's very important that whoever the next guy who comes in isn't a risk. We have heard a million times from various journalists, this is a really big appointment, this is a really big summer. Well, no shit. It's been the same now for years. For the last 4 years, literally, to use the word twice, we have had big summers. We've had big opportunities. We've had moments. How do we seize them? How do we grasp them? And how do we move forward? Filipe Luís is a very exciting coach who is still very early and young in his coaching career. And my concern would once again be that the magnitude of this job is too big for him. Again, further down the line, this is great, but this is the problem that is self-inflicted and self-created at our football club. The caliber of managers that you put off by operating the way that we operate means you can only get those managers who are learning the trade.
Fabrizio Romano has also reported that Filipe Luís is a name to watch in the managerial market. The former Chelsea and Atletico Madrid defender is being considered among options as Chelsea continue their search for a new permanent manager. Sport Witness has reported that Filipe Luís is working urgently to obtain his UEFA Pro licence as quickly as possible in order to be able to coach in England. Chelsea closely monitored his work at Flamengo and has seriously considered appointing him. However, legal and regulatory issues related to his coaching licence have prevented the move from advancing further. Now, I'm pairing this together because this is a very interesting one for a lot of you guys and myself. I would love to see Filipe Luís at Chelsea. I think he would do a fantastic job there. And I like the way that he's got the connection with the club. He's obviously won stuff with us as a player, winning the Premier League, etc. He's got that attachment to Atletico. He's done a wonderful job at Flamengo. Bopped us in the Club World Cup. Absolutely bopped us. Won lots of stuff over in South America. I think he makes a lot of sense. He also ticks a lot of boxes. If I had to choose between Filipe Luís and Xabi Alonso, I think I would rather Xabi Alonso, but I wouldn't be mad at Filipe Luís. Now, in terms of styles of play and what they do, maybe Filipe Luís suits us a bit better in terms of the current crop of players, etc. Having that South American connection and having a lot of South American players, maybe that works a bit better in our favour. Who really knows? But I don't really know. One thing I do find very interesting, and this kind of links back to January when we were linked with him, at least briefly in terms of what was public knowledge. He was meant to be going to Strasbourg, etc., and then ended up losing his job because he had that interview, which is a wild situation that Blueco put him through. So maybe there's an element of, there's a chance we can kind of redeem that here. Whether he goes Strasbourg or Chelsea, I think he would obviously be there for the Chelsea job because Gary O'Neill's at Strasbourg. But I find it very interesting that, there are different governing bodies around the world in terms of how much weight your licenses hold. So for him to get the UEFA Pro license to be able to coach in England is going to be a huge thing. It's going to be a huge thing. Now, obviously, when it comes to the elite of the elite, and they are going through these processes, they are speed ran through them. Obviously, they still have to have the knowledge and the capabilities to do them, but they are, put for a fast track system. So I don't think that would actually be an issue as long as Chelsea were going to hire him. I think they could probably get that through before we actually needed him here. So I just wanted to kind of partner that together because I think adding a bit more context to this, Chelsea are obviously very interested in Filipe Luís. There was a lot of murmurs around him and the praise around him before and after that Flamengo game in the Club World Cup. And then obviously this January with us looking for a manager, his name kept popping up and links to Strasbourg, etc. Maybe we're still interested, but we want to make him a Strasbourg manager for the next few seasons and see how he gets on and develops in Europe and then bring him across. Maybe just getting him involved in that Blueco model might be the plan. You know, we go for Xabi Alonso now. We have Filipe Luís for Strasbourg developing for the future. And if anything ever goes wrong or Liverpool becomes available and Xabi wants to jump ship, we can then bring in Filipe Luís. That would be the dream scenario, I suppose. And that'd be one of the very few benefits of having a multi-club model, as much as I don't agree with them, is you could have something set up like that. Would they both be willing to do that? Who really knows? Who really knows? If you're bringing Filipe Luís away from South America and what he's achieved there, then you're going to have to give him something that makes his head go, okay, yes, I'll do that yesterday. Yeah, 100%. So I do find this very interesting. I would love to see Filipe Luís at Chelsea. I think it'd be class. I think it might not be who everyone would want to appoint. It might not be that elite level manager that everyone's crying out for, which I don't think we are realistically going to obtain, at least at right now. But I think he would do well with the squad, and I think he could definitely build and be part of this project and understand it. And the styles of play that he gets his teams playing, that high press, that high intensity, the aggression that he uses in the right way. You know, I mean, it is a bit transitional, but every football game is transitional in spells, right? It just has to be. It can't not be, because games open up, etc. Obviously, he does play a bit of that possession style as well. I think it could work really well with the current Chelsea squad. But at the same time, I look at Xabi Alonso. I think at the game yesterday against Liverpool, who played a three at the back with wing backs, and I thought that we played it so well. Ultimately, it took us 15-20 minutes to get into the game, but once we did, we looked so comfortable in that formation with the likes of Levi Colwill at the back, with those line breaking passes and punching that ball into midfield and being able to switch the play quicker and exploit the space. So, like I said, I'm happy with either. It'd be very interesting to see their sort of tactical mindset with our current crop of players. And yes, there's going to be incomings and outgoings, but what they would do and how they would set things up and what would be better for our current squad without having to rely on major surgery on the squad in terms of bringing in 7 or 8 players, which I don't think is going to happen. But could be potentially the plan going forward, as they always like to tweak the project, whatever they keep saying. So I'll be very curious to know your thoughts down below when it comes to Filipe Luís, and for Romano basically saying, look, got to keep an eye on him because he's going somewhere. Now being linked with the UEFA Pro license to make sure he can coach in England. Chelsea have those links with him prior to Rossini being sacked in January for the Strasbourg job and potentially the Chelsea job now. I'll be very curious to know your thoughts. Who do you think is better suited for this current crop of Chelsea players? Should it be Filipe Luís or Xabi Alonso?